In 2010, archaeologists at the World Trade Center in Manhattan came across something that they didn't expect. A mystery straight from the Revolutionary War. A gunship, now just a jumble of over 600 pieces that had been sitting under the New York City skyline for over 200 years. In this episode of This Is How We Do It, we're talking to Dr. Peter Fix and his team along with the New York State Museum staff about how they're piecing the gunship back together and bringing the boat back to life. All right, Mike, so thank you so much for inviting us down here to the exhibit. And what started the whole process of bringing this gunship up to the New York State Museum?
The ship was found when archaeologists were doing monitoring at the site of the Vehicle Security Center, which is about a block away from where the Twin Towers were. They realized there were some timbers there, so they stopped the construction, and lo and behold, they had this boat. So the first thing that happened was actually stopping the construction and bringing a archaeologist who is an expert on the excavation of boats to come in and identify the importance of the ship. Once that happened and they got the ship timbers out of the site, then they had to be cleaned off, and eventually they were sent to Texas A&M's conservation lab, and that was in 2011. Then now it made it to the museum at the beginning of May, and they're putting it together. So it's a really exciting time for us to actually have the ship here.
All right, Peter. So first of all, thank you for inviting us back here to the gunship exhibit. And first thing I got to ask is, how does it feel? It's been almost 15 years from the beginning of the process to now to be at the tail end of assembling this gunship here at the New York State Museum.
We've gotten certain portions of the bottom base done, and that's the most important, because if we mess this portion up, we will have throw multiple errors through the entire thing. So we're at this point, we're stiffening some things up, and our next portion is then to put our frames in, which are over here on the floor, and then we'll start planking it. And as it starts planking, we'll start integrating more and more carbon fiber and other types of materials to stiffen and hold the whole thing together. You look at the base that we built and the shoe we built, it gets bigger and bigger as you go back. And then we had to set that 370-pound knee on top of everything without crushing the keel.
What is unique about this specific area versus all the rest of the pieces that we have here that everybody's assembling?
So this is a portion of the orlop deck, which will go on top of the stern area.
Okay.
So we have fragments of pieces. As you can tell, the wood of this piece is a lot thinner than the outer hull planking. So this is where people would be walking on. What we did is that one of our professors for his dissertation got his PhD in reconstructing this ship that you see digitally. So we laser scanned all the pieces and then put them together using Rhino, which is a software. And what we're doing is using that model that he created and piecing it together in real life. So we kind of have a blueprint, and now we're putting it together here.
We took all of the iron fasteners out, and then we submerged the wood in vats out at the lab that had polyethylene glycol, also called PEG. That helps bulk the wood because it was degraded and waterlogged. So the internal structure of the wood gets kind of spongy and porous, and if we just take all the water out initially after finding it, it'll collapse in on itself and crumble to pieces. So we add in that PEG as a bulking agent, and it's like kind of waxy, so it fills in the gaps where the wood should be. We decided to bulk the wood only partway with PEG, and then it got freeze dried at our facility.
A lot of these pieces had suffered some kind of breaks, whether during its deposition or recovery, because they were so fragile. So before we put them back on the ship for their final display, we're just going to go ahead and reinforce any of those weak pieces. Something like right here, you can see we had to go ahead and reinforce with a 2-part epoxy and a couple of nails right here that we make ourselves just to make sure they're the right length and shape. After they go ahead and get cleaned and glued and reinforced, we're going to go ahead and put them on what we have basically like the spine of the boat right now.
Okay.
We have the keel and these longitudinal frames called the floors. And the way we constructed this is we used a big steel beam right here to support all of the weight. This thing's, I think, around 1,800 pounds.
Taking it back to the 18th century, was it hard to determine the ship's origins? I mean, with your experience?
Well, we still haven't totally done that yet. We have a working hypothesis that it's a gunboat. I am 95, 98% pretty positive that's what it is, and everything we continue to learn supports that. We look at it from both angles. How could it be, and then how could it not be? Trying to disprove ourselves as we go along. But every little piece of evidence that's coming up right now still points us to say, yes, this is a gunboat. It was built in the summer of 1775, so its 250th anniversary is this July and August. Then it was utilized for a couple of years before it had its second career, which was landfill in New York City. The wood is delicate enough that you don't want to be moving it all that much if you can help it. You definitely don't want to put things together, then take them apart and put them together. It has to be a pretty good reason. So it's going to be here for a number of years, right here in the State Museum at Albany.
So Mike, thank you again for bringing us back here and let us get a glimpse of just the process of the gunship. Now, when can visitors expect for it to be wrapped up, and what are the long-term plans with this area of the museum?
The long-term plan is it will be the centerpiece of an exhibit on the Revolution, American Revolution. And so we invite everybody to come down and see what we're doing here at the museum.
That's incredible. It's just another great feature that's being added here right to the New York State Museum. Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.